right, hi guys, good morning. So we have another set of notes. We are starting a new unit. Unit 2 is going to be about lines and angles. So we're going to start off making sure we all have the same language when it comes to angles. So a couple of things. The first thing is an angle is formed by two rays with a common endpoint. Okay, so from B to A, that is a ray because it has an endpoint and an arrow. And then from B to C is a ray because it has an endpoint and an arrow. That common endpoint, B, that they have in common is called the vertex. Hopefully some of this is familiar from middle school. The rays are called the sides of the angles. Okay, hopefully that kind of makes sense. When we name an angle, we have to use 3 letters, and the vertex has to be in the middle, okay? The vertex has to be in the middle because that's how you tell where the angle starts and where it ends. If there's only one angle on the paper, like we have in our example here, we can name it by just a single letter. Okay, so let's look at this one. We could call this angle, and that's our symbol. It kind of looks like a small angle. A, B, C. Or we could call it angle C, B, A. It doesn't matter which side you start from, as long as B is in the middle because it's our vertex. Because it's the only angle there, we could name it by a single letter and just call it angle B. All right? When you want to talk about the measure of the angle, you just put a little M right in front of the angle sign, and then we know you're talking about the measure of the angle ABC. So back in middle school, maybe before that, I'm not really sure. You learned about different types of angles. So real quick, we're going to review those. The first one is a cute little angle. Okay, remember it's little, so this is acute. And acute means that it's less than 90 degrees. And then a big obtuse angle. How big is an obtuse angle? Yeah, it's got to be anything greater than 90 degrees. Remember, our little degree sign is that little dot up top. What about a right angle? Do y'all remember what a right angle is? A right angle is always equal to 90 degrees. Okay, and remember this box here means that it's a right angle. You have to see that box to be able to say it's a right angle. And this one might be new, it might not be new, but see how this is flat? Anytime you have a flat line, it doesn't have to be horizontal like this. It could go up and down. Okay, it could go side to side, kind of crooked. These are called straight angles because there's no bend in them. And they are always equal to 180 degrees. A straight line is always 180 degrees, the angle is, because there's no angle, it's flat. So let's look at our first example. Name the vertex of the angle. So look at that example there. What do you think the vertex is? Hopefully you said right here is the vertex at K. Now try to name the sides of the angles. Remember, they're rays. The sides are rays, so we write a ray with an arrow on one side, a line with an arrow on one side. That's the symbol for ray. So hopefully you said KJ, so with an arrow above it, and KL. We always start with the vertex when we're naming the sides of an angle. Now, what do you think 3 different ways to name the angle are? Hopefully you said angle K. That's the easiest one. Remember, we can do that because there's only a single angle here. And then you could name it JKL. Okay, angle JKL. Or you could name it LKJ and name it in a different order. Angle LKJ, as long as K is in the middle. Now, just looking at this without getting something out to measure it, do you think this angle is acute, obtuse, right, or straight? It looks kind of like an obtuse angle, right? So we're going to assume that. We won't always assume, but today we will. So go ahead and try example 2 on your own. Pause the video, try example 2, and then we'll go over the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've tried it. It says name the vertex of the angle. Remember, our vertex is at the corner here, so that would be S, point S. The sides go from the vertex out, so ST. Make sure you have your symbol over it, and SR. Make sure you have the symbol over it. 3 ways to name the angle. Hopefully the first one you noticed was angle S. And then you can do RST, or you could do TSR. Make sure you put the angle symbol in front. That's really, really important. And lastly, if you classified it, hopefully you noticed this box here. And what does that box mean? That this is a right angle. So make sure you have those 2 examples and you understand where we got all of those things from. All right, last thing on this page, congruent angles. We talked about congruent a little bit in Unit 1. We said congruent means same size, same shape. Okay, so angles can be congruent if they're the same size and the same shape. So look at this picture right here. We have angle A and angle B. How big are those angles? Yeah, they're both 75 degrees. So those are congruent because they're both 75 degrees. So we can say if the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B, and we know they're equal because we can see right here on the picture they're both 75 degrees, then the angles are congruent. They're the same size. So we can write that as the angle A is congruent. A congruent sign is an equal sign with a little tilde above it to angle B. Notice their measures are equal, but when we write just the angle, we say they're congruent. So we use 2 different symbols. It's not a huge deal because we know congruent is equal. Okay, so same size, same shape. All right, let's go ahead and look at the second page of notes. We got a few more things to make sure we know about angles before we move on. First one is angle bisector. We talked about a segment bisector. We said bisector means it cuts in 2. It cuts it in 2. Bisector, it cuts in 2. So an angle bisector is a ray. Okay, it's a ray because it starts at the vertex and it goes out in one direction that divides an angle into 2 congruent, and that's very important, angles. So look at the diagram. Which ray is in the middle of the angle? Hopefully you said BD. That's in the middle. And we can tell it's cut in the middle and the two angles are congruent because of this little arc here and this little arc here. Those mean they're congruent. Remember with segments we had dashes. Now with the arcs, or with the angles, we have arcs. Okay, so that's what it means that they're congruent. Sometimes you'll see them with a dash through it like that. That also means congruent. Now remember, guys, you're going to get to use your notes on all of our quizzes and tests. So I know it's a lot to remember, but write it down, make yourself some notes because you're going to get to use these. So if angle BD is our ray, we're going to say in the diagram to the right, ray BD is an angle bisector. Therefore, because we know it's an angle bisector, we can say angle ABD is congruent to, that means same size, same shape, oops, hold on, I want to change it to a different color, to angle DBC. Okay, and you could have said angle DBA is congruent to CBD if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter. All right. Perpendicular lines, you learned this in Algebra 1. Perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect. You probably learned this in middle school too. Intersect at a right angle. Okay, and the symbol for perpendicular looks like an upside down T. So in the diagram to the right, notice we have our line L and our line M, and this box right here tells us they're perpendicular because that tells us it's a right angle. So we can say line L is perpendicular to line M. A perpendicular bisector is just a line, a segment, or sometimes even a ray that is perpendicular to a segment at its midpoint, so right in the middle. So anytime you see the word bisector, it means it cuts it in two right in the middle. So in the diagram, we have these two little dashes that tell us it's right in the middle. Okay, so we can say line LM, that's this line here, put our line over it so we know it's a line, is the perpendicular bisector to, and we know that it's a perpendicular bisector because the dashes mean that it's cut in half, and the right angle box means it's a right angle, which means it's perpendicular. So it's a perpendicular bisector to line segment PQ. Okay? Line segment PQ. Okay? So go ahead and try example 3 and 4. Okay, these are a lot, but go ahead and try those, and then in the next video, I'm going to give you the answers for those. Okay, so try 3 and 4, talk to your neighbor, see what you can get.